Earlier today I was at the retro toy store and this really caught my eye because it had the Atari logo on it. And it's really heavy. I looked online and it said the case alone was worth $70 and this was $60, so I figured whatever is inside of this is a bonus. I'm guessing it's either a Jaguar or an Atari 2600, probably 2600. Let's open it up and see what's inside together. Oh my god! I'm gonna have to do a part 2. I recently picked up this really nice Atari case at the retro toy store and today I'm gonna open it up and see what's inside. So the case has these two flaps that open up like this, and after you do that the whole top flips up like this. And we got an Atari 2600. Well, this is a Telegames version, which means it came from Sears. There's 2 paddles and then 2 joysticks. We got a bunch of games: Skiing, Star Raiders, the worst video game of all time, E.T., we got Football, Freeway, Super Breakout, Real Sports Football, Solaris, Vanguard, TAC-SCAN, Space Invaders, and Jungle Hunt. That's a decent little Atari collection. I can't wait to test it out. So it's been a little while since I used an Atari 2600, and by a little while I mean about 40 years. So my question is this. You see this connection? Does this work on a TV like this, or do I need to buy some kind of an adapter? So I have good news and bad news about my new Atari. The good news is that I bought the adapter that'll let me plug this into my cable on my TV. The bad news is that when I was inspecting my Atari 2600 and I looked at the back, I was trying to figure out where to plug this power cable in, and look, it's missing. Then I started moving the console around, and you can hear something loose in there. I think I'm gonna have to open this thing up. So now I'm gonna open up my Atari 2600 because the power adapter that you plug into is missing, and I think it's loose inside. I hear it. It's like there's at least 6 screws underneath that I'm gonna have to unscrew. Let's flip it back over. Okay, I took the top off, and here's what it looks like on the inside. You can see it's absolutely filthy with all kinds of cobwebs and dust. This is the piece that was loose. This is the part that goes for the power through here, and you can see where it was right there. It was soldered in or something, and now it's not connected anymore. Unless anyone has a solution, I think this thing is toast, and I'm gonna have to buy a new Atari. But check out this piece of paper I found inside. This is January 21st, 1981. I was literally 2 months old when this thing was made. One thing that I've noticed is that with the exception of unlicensed games and some special edition games for the NES, all the games pretty much look the same. But the Atari 2600 was the most popular console before the NES, and it's a lot different for this one. While there's a lot of games that do look like this, there's also some with weird shapes on the side, weird labels where it's just text, and different markings on the back. It's like each publisher made their own game. Why is the NES so consistent with the look of their games while the Atari was all over the place? The Atari 2600 is the only console I've ever seen where the connection to the TV is soldered into the motherboard. And from what I understand, it'll still work if you put it into the video input on your TV, but you won't get sound. To get sound also, you need this little adapter I got on Amazon for $5 and it plugs in right here. Then you can screw that right into your cable input on your TV. So this particular Atari game confuses me because it says Space Invaders on the spine, but when you look at the cover it says 112 telegames. Does that mean that there's 112 games on this thing? Or what exactly do I have here? Now that I have an Atari 2600, I can finally test out this rumor that I've been wondering about for years. And it's a rumor that these joysticks will work as a Sega Genesis controller, because apparently these two controllers have the same connection. Let's see it. Well, they do actually look the same, and it fit right in the Genesis port. Alright, I got Sonic loaded up. Let's see what happens. And oh my god, I'm controlling Sonic the Hedgehog with an Atari 2600 controller? Alright, serious question for you Gen X Atari kids, because I had an Atari but I was like 5 years old at the time. Are you supposed to hold the controller like this or like this? Because for me it was a lot easier to control it like this. I got a question. Maybe someone who knows more about Atari 2600 could help me out with this. So I recently picked up this collection of games, and some of them are easy to clean if you just put some rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip and then clean that board right there. But then other ones like the Space Invaders, if you look at the bottom, how do you get in there to clean this game? Is it possible to open this thing up or no? Push down on the dust cover and it'll expose the board. I gotta test this out. Let's open up the case. Okay, so I'm pushing it down and nothing is happening. After looking at where the cartridge goes, it looks like there's just 2 plastic pins that stick up into it. So I just got an Apple Pencil here and I'm gonna try to stick it in maybe the side. Oh, okay, it exposed the thing. Now I can push it down. There it is. A special trap door I pushed down is supposed to prevent dust from getting in here, so let's see if it actually worked. I'm gonna go ahead and rub this on the slot and see how dirty it gets. Okay, I don't think it worked that well. This is how dirty it was on just this one cartridge with the cover, so I think I have to go through and clean them all. Now they know how to clean them. The Atari 2600 games have 2 labels, one in the front and then one in the top. This makes it easy to know which way that it gets inserted into the console. But that's not the only safeguard that Atari used to make sure that you put it in the console the right way. Do you see how these slots are slightly off-centered and lower to the bottom? Well, it's the same in the console, so if you try to insert it upside down, it won't go in. The only way it will go in is if you go like this. People have been asking, what am I going to do now that I know that my Atari 2600 doesn't even have a power adapter input? Well, it does have one, but it broke off the motherboard and is pretty much useless unless you know how to solder. And although I do want to learn how to solder, it's just not something I want to do right now. So I ended up buying a used one on eBay that said it's working for $40. And I'm so paranoid that it's not going to work that I actually bought this protection plan for like $5 for 2 years in case it breaks. You guys may remember I picked up this Atari a couple weeks ago and it didn't work because if you look at the back, there's nowhere to plug in the power adapter. Well, I finally picked up a new one today and this one does have the input I need to plug the power in. So today we're going to test it out and the first thing I'm going to do is plug in the power. Here's my power adapter. Now let's go ahead and Hope that it doesn't break when I push it. I'm trying to go it softly. All right, looks like it's in. Now let's plug the power in over here. Now I need to put this adapter on so I can put it into my cable. I just screwed that into the TV. There's a switch here that I'm making sure to switch to channel 3. Let's pick out a game. Let's just go with Super Breakout. Plug that into the console. Turn on the TV. Switch it to channel 3. I am so nervous right now. I really hope that this works. My heart is pounding. All right, let's go ahead and flip the on switch. Holy crap, it works! I'm gonna plug in my paddles. And check it out, I'm playing Atari 2600 for the first time in about 40 years. Here's something really strange about the Atari 2600, I don't know why they designed it this way. So when you first turn on the TV and then turn on the console, you see it pops up on the screen. But if you don't know any better, you're gonna think that your game is broken because it doesn't actually start yet. No, it's not until you hit the game reset switch that the game will actually start. Like, why did they design it that way? These two consoles came out just a few years between each other, but there are so many upgrades that the NES had over the Atari. First of all, the Atari people decided to solder the TV connection into the motherboard. The Nintendo did it separately. And while we're on the topic of TV connection, we talk about how the NES has composite video. That was such a huge upgrade. Why on earth would Atari decide to put the controller ports on the back of the console? Nintendo fixed that issue by putting them in the front where they belong because it's easier to plug in while you're playing. So is there anything that the Atari actually did better than the NES? Actually, there is one thing. With the NES, you had to put your games inside this door and then push down, but the Atari was easier. You just push it in the console and you're ready. I don't even know how this happened, but I'm learning that Atari stuff, now that it's over 40 years old, is really brittle. So I'm just going to take a little super glue, and I'm just going to place it on the bottom part so I can still open it up to repair it if I need to. So let's just carefully put some right here like that, and place the plastic piece where it belongs. And now you can't even really tell that it's cracked. And that's about it. I'm just going to let this dry for a couple hours and we should be good. You guys may remember that I recently got an Atari 2600 to relive some of my childhood memories. Well, today I got some new games. I didn't get a lot, but there's 4 really good ones in here. Let's see what they are. First, I just need to open up this package. Now I can pull out the games. Wow, this person really packaged them well. And here they are. Let's take a look at what I got. Haunted House, Crystal Castles, Donkey Kong, and the one I'm most looking forward to, Kaboom! Let me know if you guys want to see gameplay of any of these.